Okay, welcome. The purpose of this video is to continue on our discussion with collections. In the previous two videos, I had described list collections, and then the last one was array collections, and this one is dictionary collections. So basically, how do you write out dictionary with a key and a value, and how do you write out, for example, a sorted list with a key and a value? It basically uses the same mechanism. And as in the previous video, I'm only going to describe the differences between this these scripts and essentially the first script, rather than giving you a long blown out explanation of things. So I'm going to start out by basically showing you the creation script for this object. So basically we have shapes and parts are the sort of the layout. So we have a table, and we have table parts numbered 1 through 3 and parts labeled 1 through 5. So that's our dictionary key. And then the value for the dictionary is going to be a part. So the part will have 4 legs and 4 metal brackets and 1 top. And that's sort of the layout of the object. So we're going to show you the two scripts here. So we have a create script and a show script. And again, I'll just prove that there's nothing in the folder here. And we're going to run this. So when we do that, we now have a dictionary database that's been created. Now what we're going to do is we're going to disable this script and run this one and run it again. And when we have a look, I'm going to pause it, or stop it rather. When we look at the output here, we have one chair that has... Oh yeah, I also wanted to show you that. Okay, so in table here, you'll notice I've created a table and then I've created a chair, but you may notice that there's no DB save. In fact, I do the DB save here, and I do the save for the chair first and then the table next. And that's just to prove that, yes, you can create as many objects as you want and then save them together as a group. So in this case, chair got object identifier 1 and table got object identifier 2. Anyway, so if you can look at chair here, it's 5 items, and if you look at table, there's the 3 items. So that's how the table script works. Or create table script. Then the show table script basically runs through the loop, working essentially the same way. I'm using a constant for the object name. Shape looks very similar to the other two scripts, except instead of a list, in this case I'm using a dictionary. So the dictionary has an integer for the key and part for the variable, or for the value. And then to add a part, you basically say ID and part, and that's how it gets created. So now the definition looks very similar. There's now a definition entry for the structure. For loading, we new up a new dictionary for the parts, and then we call the descriptor with the collection, passing in the parts description, which is this method, and the parts, which is the loop, is the dictionary containing the integer and part instances. So what happens is we come into this method here, and just make this a little bit wider. It passes in the descriptor. It passes in a collection of key value pairs of integer and part, and then it also passes in a key value pair of int and part, and that's the pair. So basically what happens is when you call the collection, it's going to loop through parts, and then it's going to call parts definition with these attributes. So when you're doing a save, you're basically taking this pair entry and you're going to write out the key. And then in this case, we're going to call part, which is over here, and I'll show you that in a second. And we're going to call a method on part called definition. We're going to pass in the descriptor and the pair value. Now, the reason for doing it sort of this way is so that if we ever decided to change how pair is sort of organized, we have the ability to now change it in one spot rather than carrying the knowledge of the part into the shape. So that's kind of why I'm doing it that way. So basically what happens is this thing will return a part when we're loading, and it will return null when it's not loading. So if I'm loading, I'm basically taking my parts, this collection here, and I'm adding a new key value pair for the int and part. So the int is going to be the ID. So that's what I read here. and the part that I just returned here. So let's have a look at this definition method. So here's our part class. It has just standard stuff, a couple of fields, a constructor, an override for the strings, so you get the count and the name. And then here's our static method that we had called in the shape class. It basically gets a descriptor and it gets the part. So when we're loading, when we're saving, we're going to use this particular entry. And when we're loading, we're going to ignore this and we're going to return our own part. So when we're saving, we basically take the part and we write out the name and we write out the count. And when we're loading, we basically initialize the name and the count, these two fields here. And then we ask, are we loading? If we are, then we want to return a new part with the name and the count. Otherwise, we're returning null. So that's how the dictionary part works. It's very similar, just subtle differences from one to the other. Anyway, that's how dictionaries work, and that's the last of the 3 videos on collections.